Welcome to Scorched Earth and a general reading for the sign of Cancer, Sun, Moon or Ascendant for the month of April 2024. I hope you are well. I'm using the Tarot of the Abyss for you today. Before we get started, if the reading resonates with you and you'd like to go a little bit deeper, there will be an extended that you can access at the end. That is the first link in the description box. The second link in the description box is to my private community, which is the Order of the Phoenix over on the Circle platform. You can get access to all of the extended content for no extra cost beyond the membership fee. Hang out with an extraordinary group of people and participate in classes that we are running over there. So if that's something that sounds like it will be of interest to you, you know what to do with that. The final link in the description box, which is just under this video here, is to the 3-month overviews that I've done for each of the signs. They run obviously from April to June 2024. We're moving into quite tumultuous times, and I think everybody would benefit from knowing exactly how the energy is likely to play out for those signs. So for their signs. So if that's something that is of interest to you, that's the third link in the description box. Right, Cancer. Let's have a look and see what is going on with you. I'll just flip this around. Can I have 3 cards for Cancer, please? There's the first one. We have the Two of Swords. What about current energy, please? Oh, goodness, we have 2. We have the Four of Swords and we have the World card. And what's coming towards Cancer for April, please? We have the Lovers card. Of course we do. We've got the Two of Cups at the bottom of the deck. Now, for some of you, it might be, and I'm just going to get this out of the way because I do not intend to labour this point at all. For some of you, there might be new relationships coming in, right? Possibly. I would look for there to be, you know, something like an Ace of Cups and maybe it's even an Ace of Wands showing up to support that. We don't have that here, but the Lovers card is about bringing people together sometimes, and the Two of Cups is about relationships, intimate relationships, because ultimately that's what the intimacy, what the card talks about. It's intimacy, shared goals, shared viewpoints, and it's an alignment of sorts, very much like the Lovers card is an alignment of sorts. I mention it purely because I see it. I do not think that that is the nature of the reading for you. I would imagine if you're looking for that kind of reading, you're on the wrong channel altogether. But this feels extraordinarily positive for you, Cancer, and very much in alignment with what I can remember from your 3-month overview, which, granted, isn't a lot. Now, tell me about the Two of Swords, please. Okay, we have the Three of Pentacles. And we have the Death card. Tell me about the Four of Swords and the World, please. Right, so we've got the Lovers card and the Emperor card, both showing up in reverse. Let's get one more for that, please. We have the Knight of Swords, Gemini energy, as the Lovers card is too. Oh, goodness. We've got the Nine of Pentacles. And we've got the King of Swords. Amazing. All right. Well, isn't this a lovely reading? So let's just put all of these straight so I don't get triggered by it. This looks really good, Cancer. Very, very good indeed. Because not only do we have a very solid statement about the end of a cycle that you're in, and remember that the tarot deals with, you know, cycles within cycles, and life is all about cycles within cycles. Sometimes we're completing major cycles, sometimes you know, we have to complete 15 mini cycles before we get anywhere near a medium cycle completion. This one feels big. And I feel like part of what makes it bigger for you is the fact that not everybody is along for the ride. Now, what do I mean by that? I'll get to what I mean by that. But it revolves around these 2 cards here, if I am honest. Now, is that even the right way I want to term it? I don't think it is, actually, because quite a few people could be along for the ride, if we put it that way. What I mean to say is that not everybody is holding the space in the same way that you are. I think that's the way that I'm going to turn it. So We'll push the shadow cards to the side for a second because we'll come back to those shortly. But let's start with this Two of Swords over here. This card here represents, well, it's multivalent, right? Like all of the tarot cards. So it means an awful lot of things at once. And I feel like there's a stack of interpretations here that actually all apply to you at the same time. So, you know, the way that I usually interpret this card straight from the off is there's something here that you're not seeing, right? When we talk about the Two of Swords, we're often talking about the need to make some sort of decision. Unfortunately, for whatever reason, we're not operating with all of the information, because the implication of the card, at least as it appears in the Waite Smith, is that we're trying to make some sort of intellectual decision about something, and what we're not doing is consulting the emotions, consulting the intuition, and generally there's a reason for that. And the reason is, if we did consult those things, the decision would be made, and ahead of time we've decided that we don't like what that is. That's the one interpretation of this card, which is my usual one, that I actually want to shove out of the way, because I don't feel like that applies to you in this time. Other ways of looking at this card could be bear with me while I'm chewing on my knuckle here a second. Sorry, as I'm coming up with interpretations, they're immediately being kicked away, and I'm being told it's not that, and it's not that, and it's not that. So is it Cancer? It's not Cancer. Okay, this is not you. That makes sense. This isn't your card. This is the card of people around you. This is the card of people who are in the same space that you yourself occupied for a very long time. It's the space of trying to rub along in groups and have a different mask for each occasion. Now, we all kind of wear different hats at different times, right? Because different situations have, it's appropriate for us to show up differently. But this is talking about the way in which you have actually, at times in the past, masked your true self away, whether it's because, to show yourself would be to be rejected, or because indeed there's a part of you that you had rejected that you didn't want to see. I think like the kind of sideways implication of this is that you're showing up really authentically, Cancer. Not for the first time ever. This has been a process that's been, happening for a long time. But I think what's really striking you is the extent to which other people do not do the same. You might have intellectually kind of pondered upon, if you wear so many masks, is it likely that other people do the same? And come to the conclusion that it was entirely likely. But I think what's happened recently is an awareness of the extent to which other people have done that. Other people do that. Other people mask and, kind of almost like pantomime their way sometimes through life without ever really showing who they are underneath. And I think there's an aspect of this that's left you slightly staggered on one part, in one part of this, perhaps slightly disappointed in another part, but then almost more resolute to show up even more authentically than you were doing before. It's like a lot of the ways that people interact with each other, and particularly right now, feel kind of cheap. There's that a cheap intimacy, which is the kind of surface, everybody just keep the peace and it'll all be fine. Nobody ever really shows their real face. I think you're completely done with that. You're done with being somebody who perpetuates that, and you've been done from that for a long time. But you're probably done with hanging around with people who do that too. Now, it could be that there's been a bit of sifting and sorting of your social group of late, where you're choosing to spend a little less time around those people for whom that is a really strong aspect of who they are, or not who they are, as the case may be. right? This sense that a lot of people are wearing a mask and people are literally just performing their way through life, you know. Because this Three of Pentacles here also speaks to more than just you, right? It's teamwork and cooperation and collaboration and whatnot. But the presence of the Death card here can act as a negative modifier, which is to say we're done doing that. We're done hanging around with people who are too afraid to show their own authenticity, to show their true face, to really own who they are and show up in that way. I'm going to pull out this Triple Goddess here and get some more information, because it feels like that's a bit of a corner that you've turned there. Like I said, you've accepted it in yourself and you've been there for quite a long time. But holding other people to the same standard feels new. Or at least slightly more novel. Well, that's Three of Pentacles. Yes, so Nine of Swords. Wait. And is that Queen of Swords down there? Ah, it is indeed the Queen of Swords, with the King of Wands at the bottom of the deck. I think that you have realised that these people are pretty vexatious to your soul. Sometimes when we get balls deep in personal work, sometimes one of the wrong turns that we can end up going down is assuming that in some sort of weird and convoluted way, that everything that is not cool essentially originates with us. To an extent that's correct, but it's not entirely all that it is, you know. I'm sure I've mentioned before, I have a friend who's an Aquarius, and we were talking about depression once, and she just piped up, before deciding that one is depressed, one must first check that one is not surrounded by arseholes. And I cackled, because not only was it an incredibly Aquarius thing to say, it was absolutely bang on and true. So, you know, rather than assuming that right across the board anything that is even remotely problematic is our fault, and if you've had predispositions towards codependence or people pleasing or any of those kind of things, that's an energy that you've kind of taken into yourself at some point in the past anyway, right? That's a place that you've been occupying and working from. But then when you go into personal work and you're like, oh God, right, everything comes down to me, I'm responsible for everything. Sometimes you can actually put up with a little bit more than you should do. Because you're like, why does this person trigger me so hard? And you're like, oh, well, I've obviously disowned some part of me that they remind me of, and I should own that, and then I'll find them less irritating. And sometimes that is true, but other times they're just assholes. Other times they're just empty vessels who don't really have anything to say. And I think you've spotted a number of those in your environment. And rather than taking it into yourself and it being a cause of concern for you, I think you're calling time on a lot of these associations. Now, these could be, you know, in the work arena. These could be around members of family. This could be long-standing friendships that you've had for a long time. And you're like, God, Jesus, I have nothing in common with you whatsoever. And you irritate the shit out of me. Or, you know, I don't mind you too much, but holy crap, like, you're really not interested in any kind of self-work or self-improvement. Yeah, sometimes friends and friendships get stuck at the point where you were actually doing something. I remember a friend of mine talking about why he didn't see another friend of his so much anymore, and him saying to me, I realised every time we got together, all we did was reminisce about when we were in our 20s and our early 20s and our teens. He said we didn't really do anything new together. There was no expansion of the relationship. It was just a going over of old ground. And, you know, realising that that's probably a place where it's time to diverge. This could be playing out in lots of different ways for you, but the theme that runs through it is that you seem to be done trying to work with, or, you know, finding a way to work on yourself so that you can be alongside people who clearly aren't supposed to be in your environment anymore. And the Queen of Swords is very good at helping you chop those people away. That's the starting point. When we get into your current energy, your vibe feels really, really high. We've got the World card there, like the recognition that some sort of cycle has completed. Now, I don't know if you... Yeah, you probably were, right? So we had that lunar eclipse in Libra that happened on the 25th of March. Obviously, Libra is a cardinal sign. You are also a cardinal sign. There's probably come in pretty strong for you. Might be what this whole situation is around here. But there's a sense of kind of drawing everything to a completion, ready for it to start again. I'm looking at the Auroribus and the way that it's kind of tracing that line there. And it's like, well, this cycle is completing, but it's now time for a new one, which will lead to an end, which will lead to a beginning, and so on and so forth. And the sense of peace that you have around that feels really, really good. But notice how we've got these people. We've got the Lovers card in reverse, right? So we have potentially some sort of breakdown that you are comfortable with in relationships that were considered to be strong in some sort of way by you at some point in the past. But we also have a removal of this idea of conscious co-creation. Right? There's nothing being consciously co-created in this space. Maybe it's even a degree of a lack of an exercise of free will in a particular situation, right? And that being the thing that was enough to make you say, no, I'm good, I'm done with this, thank you very much. The Emperor in reverse, like the Two of Swords, can mean lots of things. But I actually feel like you have been surrounded by people who in no way are interested in getting their shit together. Like, when we do our personal work and when we really let go of the things that keep us trapped in a particular vibration, what generally happens is we run out of things to have in common with the people that we had surrounded ourselves with when we were in that particular vibration. You know, we go from a kind of magnetizing together to a repelling apart. And there can be quite a bit of guilt and whatnot associated with that process, particularly if those friendships or those relationships, those situations have been ongoing for a very long time. But there's this really fresh energy in the Knight of Swords here that's kind of rushing in and saying, no, you've got to not just talk the talk, but walk the walk. You can't just pay lip service to an intellectual idea when this intellectual idea, which is self-work and personal growth and all that kind of thing, has actually changed your internal landscape so fucking hard that now you have nothing in common with these people. Like, it's almost... it's almost being disingenuous to yourself to try and perpetuate these relationships or perpetuate these situations moving forward. You know, there's such a state of peace with this Four of Swords, but let's not forget that it's also a foundational card because it's numbered 4. So there is a new foundation that's operating in your brain that's making you see the world in a very different way, right? Which has led to an evolution of you, right? You're showing up differently. You've got your shit together. You're very much focused on conscious co-creation. And yet you seem to be surrounded by people who could not be further across the scales from you if they tried. Like, that was a B. It does not feel to me like there's anything that motivates or inspires you about these people. And because your focus is on showing up authentically and being authentic and being the most powerful, you know, version of you that it's possible for you to be, there's a sense here that you've been in the wrong place for a while, or what was the right place for you for a time is now no longer that. Now, whenever we have cards that speak of endings, and the Death card speaks of endings, the World card speaks of endings, in its own way, the King of Swords can also speak to an ending. The Nine of Swords is definitely something approaching an ending. What we really like to see is some sort of new energy rushing in. And there we have the Ace of Wands. It's new creativity, new passion, right? The thrill of being alive, the excitement of potential. Where other people see chaos, and I do wonder if there's something kind of chaotic around your wider relationships at the moment. There's some sort of ripple of energy that's going through. And maybe people are, panicking about world events or, all sorts of other things. Like they don't seem to be able to see beyond the end of their noses. There seems to be an extraction, right? An extraction of your energy where I'm going to stand over here and I'm going to start drumming up all of the wonderful energies of the Ace of Wands. Right? Is that what I think it is? It is the Ace of Pentacles there. And I'm going to start moving forwards. Now, before we go any further, particularly since the Emperor is in reverse, I want to highlight one thing for you in the month of April. Well, several things. First off, we have a solar eclipse in the sign of Aries on April the 8th. Very much of this kind of energy right here. We've got something that's closed out with the lunar eclipse. We've got a corresponding solar eclipse that is now initiating. And there's a desire to accelerate really hard when the eclipse energy starts to play out. But, and this is where the Emperor in reverse comes in. Oh, actually, that's very interesting. Well, I'll tell you what it is and then I'll explain that. We also have a Mercury retrograde occurring in the sign of Aries. Now, what I've just seen that I didn't notice, these are both Gemini cards, therefore ruled by Mercury, and we've got Aries upside down. Now, Mercury retrograde, I think it's going to be quite a spicy one. Because the retrograde is happening in the same sign as the solar eclipse. What we've got is this desire to cannonball forwards on something. Possibly some sort of creative project, possibly for some of you the establishment of a new business, getting it off the ground. The Ace of Pentacles and the Ace of Wands are a combination that I see quite frequently, indicating some sort of new business. But then you have the energies of Mercury, who is causing delays and obstructions and kind of getting in the way and putting the brakes on, asking you to stop, reassess, reevaluate, go over, check. And that could be quite a frustrating energy to try and negotiate. And the problem is, obviously, because it's affecting everyone, everybody's going to be in this same state. Everybody's going to be a little bit agitated, a little bit frustrated. I mean, particularly, frustrations possibly spiking around about the time of the Mars-Saturn conjunction, which is happening in Pisces. It's not happening in Aries, but it's still got that flavour to it. It's got that quality to it, right? In the same way as we've got Mars, who's wanting to, really go forwards and fight and conquer and whatnot. And then we've got Saturn going, no, it's not happening. Just stop. No, it's not allowed. These energies have the same quality, and they're kind of almost battling against the energies of the eclipse. I don't think that they are. I think they're actually working with the energies of the eclipse, but it's going to be very difficult to see that in the moment. As I'm recording this, it's actually the 31st of March. So, Mercury goes retrograde tomorrow, which is probably when most of you are going to see this video, which will be the first. And it will remain in retrograde for pretty much the duration of April. It's 25th, it stations direct. But then we have a 2-week cool down period that's going to take us right into May. So for some of you, it's being aware of this and trying to maintain that stillness of mind whilst these energies kind of battle their way out together. It could be particularly frustrating for you with that Ace of Pentacles and that Ace of Wands and the King of Wands, when the desire is to move forward, act, do, engage in some sort of way. whereas the Lovers card and the Emperor's kind of sticking their heels in. Now, you've got to take it as it resonates to you. One of those two is going to be more likely for you personally than the other. But Mercury being in retrograde, it really isn't something to be afraid of. There are certain cautionary behaviours that it would be a good idea to engage with. So, you know, be careful signing contracts. It's not that you can't sign them, you absolutely can, but it would really benefit you if you could get somebody else to go through it. Make sure that you're signing what you think that you're signing, right? It's all about the detail. It's about going back through things and checking that you've, and particularly when we're talking about foundation, checking that your foundation is what you think it is. Because when we are hasty, when we rush, when we try to drive forwards in a retrograde, what generally happens is, well, we get our forward movement, but at some point later on down the line, something that we missed in our haste comes back and causes problems for us. So because there's so much, you know, kind of a reevaluation of stuff, it's take the time to make sure that the direction that you're wanting to go in has all of the details covered. Because there's a chaotic kind of energy that well, it's here already. I feel it already. I've been able to feel it for a goodly while now, but it's absolutely escalating during eclipse season, which is where we are right now, and will escalate further in Mercury retrograde, and then further still as all of these conjunctions that we have lined up over April all come one after the other after the other. And there's this deep desire to drive forwards no matter what that is probably going to find itself obstructed for one thing and another. We've got to be really, really careful about being too hasty. Now, when we move into April, let's just centre these cards here for a second. We have the Lovers card showing up in the upright. Very, very nice. Conscious co-creation. Now, it's a card that speaks of manifestation, which is the same as the Magician. Right? Magician is ruled by Mercury, so represents either Virgo or Gemini again. But there's a difference in the way that that manifestation is brought about. So I would characterize the Magician as active manifestation. Here is my will. Here are all of the things that I have at my disposal. It's the aces on the table. And I'm going to combine all of those in the right ratio with my will to bring about what it is that I intend to manifest, right? It's very masculine. It's very active. The Lovers card, although it's Gemini and so strictly active, feels much more passive to me because it's about alignment. The conscious co-creation thing comes in because it's not about you getting what you want. It's about you shifting yourself so that you get into position with where the universe wants you in order that certain wonderful things may be manifest in front of you at some later point. We've got the Nine of Pentacles indicating self-sufficiency and independence and all of those kind of things, but also like how you manage your resources. And them being in the upright suggests that they're being managed well. And what do I mean by resources? Well, I mean absolutely your money, but also your attention. Where is it going? Where is it being pulled to? You know, are you spending lots of time looking around outside of you? Are you spending any time consuming news and social media and all that kind of thing? I would say we'll probably stop that. Even turn your TV off. I mean, a passive consumption of television programming is just dire. Like, let's not do that. It's extremely bad for the brain. Your focus, your energy levels, your love, your care, these are all things that are represented by Pentacles for me. And what she does really so well here is keep all of her pentacles close. Now, she may give them out, right? Give out her attention, give out her care, give out, you know, X, Y, and Z, whatever. But ultimately, they remain under her control. She is managing them well, which is good. And I think for whatever reason that you feel to me like you're going to need to have your hands on your resources for this arrival of that lover's conscious co-creative energy that's coming up. What's really interesting and isn't actually depicted is it feels like there's a big change coming up. Well, you might say, well, Carrie, there's a solar eclipse. Of course, there are going to be changes coming in. It might be that nothing happens at all on the 8th of April because the eclipses have an operating window of anywhere up to a year, 6 months to a year. This feels a little bit more sudden than that, though. And it's interesting because there's nothing here in these 3 cards that would indicate that. Tell me about the slurs. Fucking, that just went. I can't even see what it is. What do we have here? We have the Magician. Interesting. After going through all of that. And we have the Temperance card. Another card that speaks about balance. You know, the Lover's card can speak to balance. There is a symmetry to that card. There's a symmetry in the 2 of Cups at the bottom of this deck here too, right? And the Temperance card is about balance and equilibrium. But we have both the active and passive components, or expressions rather, of manifestation happening here. And the Temperance card can sometimes talk to divine guidance or divine timing. That there feels like there's something coming in that you are going to have to respond to relatively quickly. Whatever it is that comes in, it feels like on some level you have actively manifested some aspect of this. And the universe is also trying to kind of tweak you into position so that you can be where it wants you to be. Another card of balance. Now, when we've got all of these cards of balance coming in, right, it's a good thing to be balanced. But I do wonder if what it's speaking of then is the necessity to really focus on your balance when there are things that are occurring that may compromise that in some sort of way. Even look at the Magician here. Like, just hands up. 2 of Pentacles, hands up. Temperance card, hands up. There's the Emperor again. He's in the upright. We've got the King of Swords on the table. He's an aspect of the Emperor, right? All 4 kings come together to create the Emperor in terms of, you know, his capacity. The King of Swords is about how you think about things, the workings of your mind, but more importantly, the decisions that you make. Now, I see the King of Swords as an arbiter, right? The Queen of Swords works her way through all of the information, and she takes only what is factual and useful and hands it to the king. Obviously, this is not your suit at all, and you tend to make things from much more of an emotional perspective. But there's something very rational and logical about the way that you've been working through just sort of living your life really for the last 6 weeks or so, and as we go into April. But there's something residual that is sitting in you where it feels to me like there's nothing here indicating it. It might come up in the extended, but it feels like there's a number of twists and turns that you are going to be required to respond to very quickly. And I think that you're able to do that because on some level, at least part of this is what you've tried to manifest for yourself, or you have manifested for yourself. That Magician's been following you around for quite a long time. But the universe also seems to be stepping in and saying, Cancer, we need to just grab you from the back end and just turn you a little bit like that so you go off in this direction here. And this focus on the balance feels like it's a reminder to keep what's going on in here nice and level while you are navigating whatever the thing is. right? It's like having really awesome suspension on your car. So you can go, at decent speed on fairly unstable terrain, and you're not getting jostled around and thrown all over the car inside. I saw a wicked video the other day. It was a monster truck with the world's most expensive suspension on it. That's why I'm thinking about it. And it was flying along at about 100 miles an hour, and the whole car was just like this, and the suspension and the wheels were doing this all over, and it wasn't affecting the comfort of the ride inside the car. Balanced decision making, balanced use of resources, but also these bigger energies of adjustment. Divine timing, could it be that you've been waiting for something to come in and it seems to be coming in April? No, asking you to trust in divine timing and all that sort of thing. Or is it divine will and divine orchestration that is putting a series of situations in front of you that require that quick response to it, which you can do because you've already evaluated everything that you need to know. You just have to be brave enough to make the decision to do it. And maybe that's where the King of Wands is coming in with the Ace of Wands and the Ace of Pentacles, which is to say, there are opportunities here that you have manifested. And in all likelihood, they're going to pop up in unexpected places. And like whack-a-mole, you're going to have to be ready to get them. Now, it could be around people that you're meeting. Two of Cups, does talk about intimacy and shared everything, shared resources and shared visions, shared goals, shared lives, all that sort of thing. It doesn't have to be a romantic or sexual partner. It can be a friend. It can be a business opportunity with someone to work with, a business partnership. It feels like there's somebody coming in who is actually the key to unlocking all of this, and it not necessarily in a really obvious way. But your senses feel to me like they're heightened this month, and you're looking for the opportunities. You're looking for these opportunities that you have manifested, and they're popping up. Now, it's not to say that they won't be around for long. We work on the what's for you won't go by you here in this channel. But you might have to chase them a little bit if your reactions aren't as quick as they could be. I heard the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction described as somewhat like a wormhole that you could jump through that would accelerate you towards abundance if you were able to take advantage of it. I wonder if that's what it is, because there's everything that we discussed here is kind of wanting to drag you in a particular direction, and you want to go for sure, but then Mercury is dragging you backwards again. And I think actually the opportunities might not necessarily be in the linear A to B. They might be in the spaces around that, which you're going to have to stand a little, go a little slower before, just to be able to take it all in. But the reactions seem to need to be quick when they do pop up. They'll be back if you miss them. That's fine. But it seems like there's an opportunity to zoom through some levels here and get to where you want it to be faster. This is a very peculiar reading. Right, I'm going to go over to the extended now, and we're just going to look at April. So I'm going to put all of this to one side, and we're just going to focus on what is happening here. So if you'd like to join me over there, you're very welcome to do so. You can do that on Circle. You can do that on Vimeo. If not, just be sharp-eyed this month, Cancer, because there are people and opportunities that are popping up right, left and centre. And the visual of the whack-a-mole just will not leave. Like, it's that quick quick response. Doesn't seem to need you to go away and think about something for a week and then come back with a well-reasoned answer. It's like, it's understanding, actually, this is fair, between the king and queen of swords. Like, you have all of the information that you need. The magician says you have all of the tools that you need. You have everything that you need for whatever it is that you want. The only thing that you have to do is be swift enough and courageous enough to say yes when it pops up. So sharp-eyed this month, Cancer. All right, I'm going to leave it there. Know that I love you all very, very much, and I'll see you soon.